It's always a push and pull with how we want to balance our time. And when it was just the two of us before we joined Superhost Labs, we were kind of reaching a point where we had to decide whether we wanted to scale the design side or if we wanted to shift into something new. And every conversation that we had between the two of us was wanting us to shift into something new, because Karwell design, there's not a single portion of it that's passive, right? I mean, when we're designing people's properties, it requires us to physically be there.
Who's this? Oh, you're an entrepreneur? Oh, you're a real estate investor. Oh, you're trying to learn from those who did it. Well, come into the lab then. Put your white coat on, gloves on, notepad, and let's build, y'all.
Real estate experiment, what is happening, y'all? Today I have some very, very special guests here, and they are partners in crime and they are not sisters. However, you may have come across some of their posts on social media because they're crushing it on there, but not only in social media, they're also crushing it in the short-term rental space and bring a very unique flavor to the lab with us, and I'm really excited to get into it today. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Emily and Sarah, aka the Karwells. Ladies, how are you doing today, man? What's going on? This is I love how this all happened and how we're here on the air together. What a time to be alive, where we could chop it up and talk short-term rentals and everything under the sun. So what's going on, ladies?
Yes, thank you for having us as well. This is so fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah, let's dig into it. We can talk short-term rentals all day long. So
yeah, but I hope I was working on the introduction. We're just talking about it offline, and I just want to let the record show, because at first, like the Karwells, I was looking at it, I'm like, hey, you guys are building a brand, and I want to really be clear on what I think is really neat, how you guys put your all names together. And it's from what I understand, it's the I guess your family name, not your maiden's name, together, right? Car and then Wells, right? So, and you guys have been besties since like 4th grade, which is so cute. Did I get that right?
Yes. Yeah. Sarah, I think it's 3rd or 4th grade, something like that. We met. Sarah moved to my school and we've been friends ever since. But yes, it's our last names, our married last names. My last name Karnes and hers Glidewell. We put like 4 or 5 names out there to our audience. We were like, which one sounds the best? And Karwells did it. Our maiden names just don't go well together, if I'm being completely honest. They're not a good combination. My maiden name is Brown and hers is Doan. So it's like bone and drown is what it would have been with our maiden names. So it just did not work.
Yeah.
Well, what is working, and you guys are making your business work and the friendship, which is totally goals. I always say this too, because I heard you guys mention this on a previous episode, that it's so fun just doing it with people that you actually been through the trenches with and that you love, and that it's fun. Which I'll get into that in a second, because I'm sure there's like highs and lows. But that's super cool that you guys get to work together. That's what drives me. And honestly, I'll be honest, that's why I actually love the short-term rental space, because I feel that you can involve a lot of like family members and friends. I've had businesses where, yes, I have a team, but it's like I can't allow people to kind of just tap into that, where here it's like, oh, I like cleaning team. Like I remember my sister used to help us clean in the beginning, and then it was, I got my brother in this space, I got my parents-in-law in this space, and so that's the cool part of what you guys are building. But speaking of building too, you guys got like a pretty big social media following, and I know you guys are crushing it on TikTok. Tell me which one came first, because I think during like 2 years ago, COVID, there's a lot of us who got a lot of inspiration and really doubled down on either our brands or our businesses. Was it simultaneous for you guys? Which one came first? Fill me in.
Yeah. Sorry, I've got things going off in the background here. That's my bad. Honestly, the TikTok came second, or the brand kind of came second to the idea for us. It was always a pivot, right? And Karwells at first was a total means to an end, where we were like backs against the wall in COVID. Our properties weren't performing. We had poured a bunch of money into properties that we were expecting to see a pretty quick return on, and it just wasn't happening. And so both of us were like, what do we do? And it was like, okay, we can either sit here and like keep complaining about it, or we can like do the counterintuitive thing and start another business and another brand and see if that can kind of float us for a while as we just like see where this pandemic is going to take us. And then it just started resonating with people. You know, I think that people enjoyed watching our process, and we got to learn a lot working with other investors. And so it was birthed from a place of chaos and failure. And we've been running with it ever since.
That's literally the entrepreneurship like pool of or soup, I should say, right? Just chaos, and sometimes it all comes in order, right? And so just to level set, right? So you both, right? Emily, you have a designing background as well as Sarah, both you guys, right?
Sarah has a design background. I was always relatively creative. I went into a degree in like retail and fashion.
Yeah, that's what it was.
And
retail fashion, that's right.
Yeah, so I kind of a creative aspect. My side was more like marketing, I guess, is kind of what my degree is in. That's not necessarily my biggest passion. I like the creative aspect of it, but my marketing aspect does come in handy in our industry.
Absolutely, totally. And so when you guys come together and you huddle up, who's tackling what? Like, how do you guys kind of like, okay, like this is what I'm gonna do, or this is actually what you're gonna do? Because I always hear like, oh, you got to find someone like who like when we're talking about building a partnership, it's like, you know, you're really good at this thing, you'll do it, or you know, and I'm not good at that, but you love to do that, I'll do it. Like, how do you guys go around working together? How does that look like?
Yeah. So we are polar opposites in a lot of ways, almost every single way, which helps us kind of assume roles pretty naturally. And without each other, I think this whole entire thing just wouldn't work nearly as well. Like I am the 100 miles an hour, everything sounds like a great idea, like blinded by optimism, super social side. And Emily is like the holy cow, yeah, I see the optimism, but let's like reel it in for a minute and see if this is actually feasible, if this is, you know, legal, are we backing ourselves into a corner, kind of like, you know, putting up some red flags and being the one to like poke the holes in any idea that, you know, I'll drum up. And I'm very chaotic, right? I'm like not organized, I'm kind of all over the place, and Emily will like channel it in to actually make the boat go forward. So we always say like, I will always leap. Emily wouldn't leap, but I'm leaping into something that's good because Emily is here to like catch me. And that's kind of how we end up balancing each other out.
That's so chill. Yeah, I get that sense already. Like Emily, even like how you're nodding, you're like nodding. And then Sarah's like right out the gate, which I love. That's actually more me. And like my fiance is actually more on the quiet side. And which is, I still don't believe that she's a Gemini. She's also a Gemini. We're like a week apart. It doesn't feel right. Not that I know my horoscopes or anything, but it's just kind of polar opposites in a way. But that's good to have. That's good to have. So tell me about the business. So you are you both in, is it Michigan?
Yeah, so we both moved to Texas together, started Karwell Design in Texas together, and then now, ironically, kind of by happenstance, I'm in Texas in this moment. I have an arbitrage property that we're collapsing because the landlord doesn't want us to keep doing it. So I'm here in Texas and something bittersweet, but we're investing in Michigan, and so both of us are living like semi-permanently in Michigan right now.
Are y'all both from Michigan originally?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay, cool. So you guys, so tell me about that, because I know you guys have, or you ladies, just to say, have a very unique background, because not only you're an SDR, but from what I understand is you're also helping other hosts design, right, their SDRs. And so when you look at the bulk of your time and energy, is it mostly on helping other hosts looking to launch their Airbnbs? Or are you catching hosts where they already have some and they're trying to get a facelift because they heard of the Karwells, that the Karwells can help them? Like, how do you know, what's the bulk of your work in your day-to-day?
Yeah. I think it ebbs and flows a lot. It's kind of seasonal as well. It depends on whether we're putting together one of our own properties or whether we're cash poor and restacking cash. So, you know, it's always a push and pull with how we want to balance our time. And when it was just the two of us before we joined Superhost Labs, we were kind of reaching a point where we had to decide whether we wanted to scale the design side or if we wanted to shift into something new. And every conversation that we had between the two of us was wanting us to shift into something new, because Karwell design, there's not a single portion of it that's passive, right? I mean, when we're designing people's properties, it requires us to physically be there all the time and be plugged into something. And once that project is done, you're done. You get paid once, and it doesn't have that same beautiful effect that having a short-term rental gives you, cash flow every single month. And so now joining Superhost Labs, what that allowed us to do was have a team behind us, take what we were doing with Karwell design, kind of plug it into something that's larger. And now we've got, a team of, I think, 20 now within Superhost Labs, where we're doing something more all-encompassing, where we're kind of building a portfolio and we have more control over how the properties turn out, and we're able to help more people, and we're also able to free up a little bit more of our time to grow our own portfolio. And so it's definitely about a better balance, but we try and always prioritize, our portfolio first, and then helping everybody else second, and just kind of see what that looks like. It's a constant battle.
Yeah, totally. And I kind of know, because we own a couple, and then we also co-host some from partners from just networking over time. And it's funny how you say that, like you got to make sure that your properties are situated first, and then you can advise the exact same for the other ones, right? Like I got a new CPA recently, and I'm like, okay, like now I gotta share that with my partners as well. So I love that, because it's like you're a practitioner, right? So you understand where the pitfalls are, you understand where the pain points are, and you can share that with your other clients as well. So tell me, I'm not sure, and maybe you guys can both help me out here. What is Superhost Labs for the audience as well listening? Because when you said plug in and tap into that team, I'm not sure that I understood it that way. Like, fill me in. What is Superhost Labs?
Yeah, Emily, do you want to take it and I'll back you up on it?
Yeah. So with Superhost Labs, it's a team of, like Sarah said, I think we're up to like 20 people now that are all STR investors in one way or another. And essentially what we do is we take on either partners that can bring in the cash flow, and we bring the sweat equity, and we find the property, we renovate the property, we furnish it, we run the property. Or they can, like, because everybody wants their own too. So if somebody wants to have their own, we essentially do the same thing, but it's not a collective that owns it. It's that one person will still find the property for you, still take care of the renovations and furnishing and everything like that. They're bringing the cash flow. We're getting it all up and running, and then we hand them back a turnkey one. So it's really, you can plug in different ways with us. It depends on how passive exactly you want your experience to be.
Okay, so help me out. Is this something, because I want to make sure I'm saying this clear for the audience so you can check it out. Is this something that y'all created, or y'all partnered with people to do it?
Yeah, so we partnered with people. We merged with a company called Techvester, and it was a group of people that was in Silicon Valley who all were part of the tech bubble out there, who built this technology that's proprietary that we have access to, that basically will underwrite thousands of properties every single day. And so when a new property pops up in a market that we're looking at investing in, it'll tell us how that property compares to other properties in the area immediately. So we all know
that is amazing.
Yeah, and so when they presented that to us, they were like, look, we have this, but we don't necessarily understand design or understand short-term rentals as intimately as you guys do, but we have this technology that'll help us, find super profitable properties. And they were also familiar with raising capital, and we weren't, right? We were super familiar with.
Okay, this is awesome. This is awesome. You talk about the lab. Okay, just so you guys know, this is called the lab, right? I don't know if y'all know. So we have Emily here and Sarah in the lab talking about how they're experimenting in their lab and putting all the ingredients. I love the design. I love the partnership. I love the technology, because it's a game changer in our, we know, like, we're plugged in super into the technology because it's so important. And you guys managed to put this experiment all together and mold it together. That's super impressive. So y'all got this proprietary tool, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so we're still trying to figure out what we want to do with it, right? I mean, right now we've been using it to find, I think we've done what are we at, 30 or 40 properties now that are closed on and in the process of renovation. I think we have like 20 done and 20 that are, you know, in the process of becoming live short-term rentals, but they're in all sorts of different markets. And so today, if you want, we're showing off the technology. It'll be a YouTube video as well, where you'll actually get to see the backside and how it functions, what it offers you.
Yes. Wait, are you gonna roll this out to your peoples or the public, or is this for y'all?
We're still kind of tossing it around. I mean, Subaru slabs on every single front is a new thing, right? There's nothing that we're like shadowing. There's nothing that we like look at and be like, okay, this person did it this way, so we're gonna try it. That seems to work. On every single front, all of this is new across the board. And so every single move we're making, we're like, is this how we want to use this? Or, you know, kind of backtracking and assessing. And so if you do invest with us, or if you are purchasing a box where you get the whole Airbnb yourself, you do have access to the backside of that technology, and you've got your own portal, and you kind of can walk around in there yourself and be able to use it. But right now it's just open to people who are investing with us.
Okay, so walk me through it, y'all, because I'm trying to understand it. So Emily, I'm sitting down with the both of you, and we're at Starbucks. Even though I don't drink coffee, I'm just saying that. And I'm like, listen, I got some capital that's sitting around. I'm trying to put this baby to work, right? I heard you guys, you know, you're designers, you own SDRs. I got some moolah. What happens next? And I've heard, I was listening to the Real Estate Experiment podcast, this gentleman, just such a great host. And I heard about what y'all do. I want to work with you guys. What happens next?
Yeah. So the first step for every single person is to talk to somebody on our investor relations team. They essentially take you on a deep dive to explain exactly what we're doing. They'll show you properties that we already have up and running and kind of how the process is. And then that side of it, once you decide whether you want to go or not, if you do decide you want to invest with us, you send it over, and then you don't have to do a single thing from then on out. We are finding
just wire my money.
Yeah.
Just shut up and take my money.
You'll start getting your checks quarterly, and you have nothing. You don't have to worry about getting anything set up. I mean, we all know the pain points of getting a property set up, and some people don't have the time or want to take the time to do that. And so you can do it that way. If you have like a larger amount of capital that you want your own property, you can also, you'll go through a demonstration of showing the properties, showing our work, so you know exactly like what you're getting for your money, right? And then they'll take you through that whole process. We find the property for you, and you can, with the STR in a box process, you can kind of pick your market. So like when it comes to
y'all, I'm sorry, the marketing, your marketing game is strong. STR in a box? What? Hold on. That's crazy.
Yeah. So you get to like kind of pick your market in that aspect. We'll try to find you the best property we can, because some people want it in a place that they want a vacation, right? So you can kind of choose your market and, oh, go ahead.
No, I'm so sorry. You're dropping so many gems. I'm trying to keep up. So you're finding a property for me. That means you're partnered with some realtors?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So we partner with realtors, and if we're not partnered with a specific realtor, we have a whole acquisitions team who will go out and look in the market and run the numbers through our technology to see what the highest cash flowing properties are going to be in that area. And they'll give you options, and then you get to look through on your side of the portal on our technology and figure out if that's exactly where you want to be.
Yeah. And a lot of people on our team are realtors as well in states. So
sure, I'm a realtor too in Georgia. I could be part of the team. I don't know. I might this might be just an interview to get in. I didn't know we're gonna get into this. I don't know. Just saying. This is, ladies, this is incredible. Like I caught up with what you guys are doing, but I had no idea like we'd go here. Like I have other questions, but now I'm really want to deep dive because not only do I want to share this with the community, but I think it's just so fascinating how you guys are putting in core competencies together in alignment with what you are really good at. So the only question, and I'll go back to you, Emily, real quick on that, because you mentioned it, is you mentioned depending on how much capital I had, there's different things I can do. I'm just curious here. Am I buying or am I investing into like pooling my money essentially into a deal to get a return? Like, or do I own the deed? I'm just trying to understand the difference. It sounds like there might be multiple options.
Yeah. So with our STR in a box, you will actually own the property. So it will be in your name. We'll just essentially be getting it up and running for you. So if you don't
Mhm.
have the time to find the property, renovate the property, furnish it, get it all up and running and supply it, that in that aspect, you are owning the property. And then you can also invest with us, which is more where we're pooling money with multiple investors and buying multiple properties in a diverse portfolio. And then you are getting cash flow from those.
Ladies, I am geeking out. This is like one of the best things I've heard. No, you have to understand. I've interviewed a lot of people, and I actually had a gentleman who asked me, "Hey, Ruben, you're the short-term rental guy. Like, you ever thought of creating a fund?" I'm like, "Absolutely!" Like, 3 years down, 4 years. That's like on my goal board. I'm like, I want to establish a few things, but y'all are doing this thing. Like, this is like a turnkey STR in a box slash we have our interior designing. This is what I call, and I'm a geek when it comes to entrepreneurship, and I have a bunch of how to buy businesses. This is vertical integration, right? Because you're networking, people find out who you are. I'm already bought in. I love you guys already, right? I like the personality. It's a good vibe. So I'm bought into that. But then you bring them in and you give them different options. Hey, we can design it for you. Hey, you can actually invest with us. Or we can give you an STR in a box option where we have a proprietary tool because we're badasses. And we have technology to find the right property for you to get you the highest return. Like, did I just summarize that correctly?
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
No, we got to talk about y'all branding. Y'all underselling yourselves.
I think we're
No, I had no idea. Like, I had an idea, but I didn't know you're like low key. Like, yeah, you're low key. You guys are gonna crush it. This is an amazing concept. I'm
Yeah.
serious.
No,
This is amazing.
yeah, and when we kind of decided to partner with Techvester and kind of bring all the moving parts together, I think all of us had so much excitement around it, and we're like, if we get this ship to sail, like it's to the moon. It's one of those things that we're like,
Yeah.
holy cow, there's so many moving parts that go into this, but if we can get it vertically integrated and we can actually get the wheels turning on something like this, it's going to change a lot of people's lives because there's a lot of people who want to be involved in the short-term rental space that just can't because they don't have the time or team or technology to do so. And that's what we're bringing.
Listen, any way I can help, I want to be involved. I want stake in this. I want to buy shares. You guys going public? No, but I'm not joking. Like, I know I'm being all seriousness. I think what you are onto is going to revolutionize the turnkey short-term rental space, because there isn't, not that I know, I haven't, like, I've heard some turnkey on the long, traditional real estate, but I think short-term rentals is such a baby in the industry that I think you're so ahead, and I cannot wait to see y'all blow up. My goodness, this is amazing. Let's talk about your core competency and your I'm curious because we talk about design a lot, and I want to hear from y'all. I'm just so interested. Like, so I'll go to you, Sarah. When you walk into a property, and whether you're doing it for a client, whether you're doing it for yourself, can you give some like a tactical kind of, okay, this is what I would tackle first out of the gazillion things. And again, when I'm asking this, we've all been in a situation, short-term rental hosts. If we don't have a designer, or we got a bunch of things we're ordering, maybe we're looking on Etsy, like we're getting all sorts of inspiration. Walk us through your mindset, and obviously, Emily, please chime in, of what you're looking for as soon as you step into a room or a house. So what's first? The floors, the wallpaper? Like, what goes through your mind? Take it. What does Sarah think? What would Sarah do? That's my goal here.
Yeah. It's interesting you're asking me because I'm in the process of putting offers in on houses. So we're like very much in the middle of that exact thought process. But for me, it's always taking a look at competitors and then understanding wow factors. And those two things together is where we prioritize any budget that we have going into a property. We see all the time people who will get stuck on floors or, wanting to replace maybe a little bit older cabinetry or whatever else. And that's not where we're putting our attention first. I mean, if you have budget at the end of the day for it, sure. But when we're looking at properties, and if we find a property that we love, or that we're designing for a client, first and foremost, we're getting on Airbnb or AirDNA, and we're looking at what your competitors are offering on an amenity front. So whether they have a putting green in the backyard or a hot tub or their lakefront or whatever else, we really want to understand what's bringing them traffic and why they're able to charge higher than their neighbors. And that's first and foremost where we're pouring our money. Second is going to be wow factors and what's going to photograph well. So after we get the amenities kind of nailed down, then we're taking a look at the property and we're saying, okay, when somebody's photographing this, what is going to stand out and how do we splurge on those areas specifically so that that marketing tool is super strong as people are scrolling through a million properties on Airbnb and trying to decide which one they want to stay at. And then finally, then we'll start paying attention to maybe some hard finishes and replacing things that are just aesthetic.
I love how tactical and systematic you are in your answer, because sometimes, it's very similar. We talked about, me being licensed, and you guys understand this as well. As you talk about comps, and sometimes you don't want to overspend in an area that's not even going to bring a return, right? And I'm assuming that's where you're going. But at the same time, you're also looking at what's already working and how can you even fill some gaps or build on top of that, which I love. It's not, you didn't just go and say, well, this works every single time. So I think it's very important. I think every time we're talking in short-term rentals, it depends, right? It's all property case by case. Nothing is, and I actually love that, because I think that's where you can actually create opportunities. I think there was someone in the forum, I think on Bigger Pockets, who was asking a question, and people still have the typical, traditional real estate of, comps and this and that. It's on a per property basis, but then you can also look at what the competition is doing in that specific area. I love that. So you do you do kind of the, I don't know if you guys know every call. When she came in on my show, and she's a good friend of mine in Georgia, she's like, the enemy method. And I was like, the enemy method. So she'll go in on other people's listings that are top listings and exactly reverse engineer, as you've said. Now that you've done this a gazillions of times, is there, Emily, is there something that you've seen, or either when you're working with Sarah, that you've seen as like an ongoing, again, I want to be careful when I say the word trend, but I also want to be, mindful that there are things that people are drawn to. Is there anything that comes to mind?
I don't necessarily know if in every single market there is, just because, and I swear we should trademark this. Literally, we say that Airbnb is hyper local. And so literally, like, so if you're looking in Scottsdale and you're seeing a bunch of like bachelorette party type things, it's going to be wall murals that you're going to see everywhere. So if you want your property to stand out, you better have the best wall mural that you can possibly have. But like in Michigan, it's a view on a lake house. That's kind of the trendy thing to have, is a view on a lake house for Airbnb. So I don't know if there's like one specific thing across the board, especially because we've now seen through Super Slab properties in so many different types of markets. I don't think there's like one thing that can be like, I need to have that in every single property, because it's going to be different depending on the market that you're in.
Interesting. Is there anything that you would do and Sarah, going back to you on this, is there anything that you would do if someone's listening to this and they're thinking, okay, from an experience perspective, or, I think when Mike came on here, we're talking about Instagrammable moments. Is there something, if you're thinking kind of isolated room, no windows, right? Just God forbid. And I'm trying to think of giving a good experience inside a home, regardless of the location. Are there some fundamental basics that we can kind of maybe build on, and hey, maybe try doing this, or maybe try doing that? Like, I want to give the audience maybe some tactical, but again, being very clear that you're bringing the point home that it is hyper local. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
I like that. But is there anything though that you feel is like a core fundamental kind of truth, Sarah, on a room by room basis?
Yeah. Room by room basis, I think when we're looking at a specific room and we're understanding where we want to pour some money into aside from amenities, we're really focusing on high touch point areas. So of course, you want your marketing to read well, and you want your photos to turn out, in a way that is going to make people stop and click on your listing and take a look around. But really, when you start looking at the nitty gritty of what you're putting in each room, aside from making it Instagrammable, it really is focusing on those high touch point areas. So is your sofa super comfortable, and how often are they going to use that? Like, how are you going to divvy up where you're spending your money? And in our mind, it's where people are actually going to be spending time and feeling, touching, experiencing different parts of that room. So, you know, I would encourage splurging on a mattress over a nightstand. I would encourage splurging on your sofa over the accent chair. And just understanding that, like, when people are using your space, what are they going to be using most often, and what are they going to be interacting with, and how can that part of their experience enhance their experience? How do we get that 5-star review and make sure that they're super comfortable, they're super taken care of, you've thought it all the way through? So we kind of play that game with every single room that we're in, because at the end of the day, we're investors, we're working with investors. Nobody wants to be spending money that they don't have to on their investment, but you have to spend money to make more money. So it's always a balancing game of understanding, you know, how do we not sacrifice the guest experience while still being money conscious?
I love that, and it's so critical in our space, because we're talking about upfront investment for still with the anticipated cash on cash return, and we want a high one. So I think what you said is really good, actually, as far as, okay, like high touch point, I can start with that, because people, I mean, still to this day, they'll comment on like, you know, how comfortable the mattresses are. Like, that's important. You need good sleep, right? That's interesting. Any I'm curious, is there any when we're thinking, okay, let's say I'm balling on a budget, right? And I'm thinking like, all right, let me just, as I progress, I'm going to invest more into these things, right? But primary, and you kind of said it already, but I'm curious to see if there's anything that I can do if my budget is tight that I should tackle, prioritize, if I'm trying to bring a little bit of life in, you know, the room, whether it's a living room, whether it's a bedroom, whether it's a bathroom. Any thoughts there? And please, Emily, chime in as well.
Yeah. When we're balling on a budget, Emily and I did this for, you know, the first year of Karwell design. We were almost exclusively doing arbitrage properties, and they were all 1 bed, 1 bath, or 2 bed, 2 bath spaces in apartment complexes in DFW. And the budget for those properties was like every single time under 7 grand if it was like a 2 bed, and then it was like under 4 grand if it was a 1 bed. And
Wow,
so,
that's
like,
kind of impressive.
yeah, and so you're like, how do we make this property stand out with like little to no money? And it really came down to, like, especially in apartments specifically, where every single wall in an apartment complex is either beige, gray, or white, and you're competing in a market where you've got 600 plus options of apartments to stay in, and we have no money. We got really creative with paint. We
Oh,
like
I like that.
Yeah, we did the color psychology thing where we were like, look, if we can get some murals on these walls, we can use colors, we can use, you know, something that's really going to pop on the screen, and it's not going to cost a lot of money, but it is going to get people's attention immediately. We ran that model into the ground. We painted so many murals, we used so many insane colors, and all of our investors were seeing higher returns than their competitors. So it worked, and
Amazing.
it didn't cost a lot.
I like that. That's a real good tactical. And Emily and Sarah, do you guys when you like walk, where do I get a mural? Like, what's my first step? Is it Etsy? How do I get one or build
Yeah,
one? Are you guys painting like an outline? I'm curious. How do you do it?
we painted all of them ourselves when we were doing it. You can hire them out, of course. I think when we started going remote, some of the clients that we had been doing them in person for ended up hiring out these murals. Some of them can be extremely simple and still pop. Like, if you can put tape and paint a straight line of a stripe on the wall, and it's a bright colored stripe right behind the bed, you create a headboard, you create something eye-catching, it drags their eye there. So it doesn't have to be this insanely detailed mural to still look good. There was one that we did where we just put painter's tape triangles all over the wall and then painted over it and pulled the tape off. Super, super easy. I genuinely think that anybody could do that, but it's just becoming innovative and using the correct colors. We also were like putting, I think in one of them, we put like a pink couch because everybody else around them had gray couches and we were doing a sunset theme. So we put a pink couch in it. And he said that one's booked out all the time now because we did the sunset theme instead, and it just looked different compared to the ones next to you. So using bright colors is really helpful. And the murals don't have to be insanely like extravagant murals. We were able to do that because Sarah's an artist and I've done art stuff in the past, but they don't have to be insane.
Ladies, what haven't y'all done? Y'all just
We're
unbelievable.
burning
So
through.
wait, so just tactically real quick, if I'm listening to this and I want to just shop around for a mural, what do I put in Google? Like, what do I do next?
We like get on Pinterest and we just type in like simple
Pinterest.
DIY murals. See what
Okay.
pops up, and then
If you have a theme in mind, you're just like sunset mural, and then you can just like kind of go down a rabbit hole from there. But really basic words is what we would put into Google or Pinterest, and then just kind of trickle our way down.
How much would that cost me if I'm thinking like a typical wall? Just curious.
We actually have no idea what mural is cost. We were like doing it in a lump sum. We would charge a lump sum per property. And a lot of times, we would just pick a wall and that was like our creative freedom on that wall. We got really fortunate to have investors that were willing to allow us to take some like pretty bold risks on some bold colors and crazy themes. But honestly, like when they started hiring it out to other muralists, they're like, wow, like the muralists are charging what you guys were charging total for the unit. And we just had no idea what to charge for a mural. And we wanted the work to be punchy and, aggressive and jump out at people. And so we never charged separately for the murals. And I've never had one priced out because every time I like want a mural, we just paint it ourselves.
Yeah, I think I know some people who have maybe gone on like Fiverr, is that the app? And get like
Fiverr.
quotes. They'll get like quoted and be like, I need this full wall painted, and then they'll get quotes from different artists. It probably also depends on where you are. Like if you're in a big city, the murals might cost a little more than like an artist that's going to be from a small city. But
wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome. I really I what I'm geeking out on, I'll share with you y'all, and maybe you can tell me if there's anything else I can build on, is the wallpaper behind the headboard. I've been really geeking out on that. I just love it, and I think it just makes the room really pop. And again, I don't know how much wallpaper, or again, you can find wallpaper pretty much anywhere, but you can find a nice little model that makes it pop. I personally like that, but I don't know if that's something. Well, I think I've heard you guys mention that that's something that you guys would also tap into. Have you guys been playing around with wallpaper at all, or?
Not a ton. So, well, we
Oh,
have in a lot of the Superhost Labs properties, I should say that,
Mhm.
because it's a little bit faster to do. I mean, it depends on the mural and the wallpaper, but wallpaper can
Mhm.
be such a great solution that's not super expensive that really can make
Yeah.
something get punchy as well and stand out. And so, kind of the backside of that is, is it an arbitrage property or is it an owned property? And so if it's an owned property, wallpaper can be a great solution because it's a little more permanent. You're willing to spend a little bit more money. But in apartment complexes, you can't, you can do a peel and stick wallpaper, but it's not, the longevity of it isn't there. So it makes more sense to do a mural in that situation. But yeah, I mean, they're eye-catching. At the end of the day, when you're scrolling on Airbnb and there's a million white walls, any way you can mix that up is going to serve you well.
Experimentation, I always experiment. And the reason why is I'm always trying to find the best tool, the best method, and the best vehicle to help me get to my end goal. One of the tools that we use in the short-term rental space is Guesty for Hosts. Now, Experimentation, you know that I love to test things, and I wouldn't be sharing with you anything that I don't use myself. As a short-term rental superhost, Airbnb superhost, listings that we own and co-host at the same time, I can tell you that there's no better software that allows us to streamline our business. Right now, currently, there's actually 3 properties right now that are currently where guests are checking in, and I'm here with you, and I did not need to send in check-in instructions for these current properties, right? There are multiple ways that you can streamline your operation, from on the front end and on the back end, from being able to create a website, from being able to get income reports for your team, to looking at statistics, to setting up auto reviews, to integrating your smart lock so that you don't have to sit here and send every day and remind yourself to send the passcodes for your smart locks. No, instead you can integrate directly the exact same way that you can actually send your cleaners a link so that they don't have to remind themselves when they need to go to cleanings. There's
text reminders that go out. There's links that can go out for them. This is a tool that if you're looking to give a smooth experience for your team on the back end, it will truly reflect, and it does, for your guests on the front end. Make sure you go to host.guesty.com and use our unique link. Our unique link will be in our bio, in the show notes. If you're currently watching this, you'll see it right here at the bottom of my screen. Use this unique link so that you can tell Guesty that I sent you. You don't want to miss out on this. You need a PMS, property management software, in your business if you're looking to operate like a super host that you deserve to be, so that your guests can have the best experience that they deserve to have at your properties. Again, that host.guesty.com. Use our unique link that is here on the screen, in the bio, and in the show notes if you're listening to this, guys. Happy hosting. Yeah, that's a good segue. So if I'm listening to this, I'm like, okay, y'all are doing this day by day. You guys are getting results for your clients, getting results for yourselves. You're interior designing. What are some, and I'm not gonna make you list, but what is a tip that you think comes to mind, or I should say, one oversight that you think is typically in design that happens that people are really not tapping into, that they should actually consider, that comes to mind first, if anything? Doesn't have to be the only rule, but I'm just thinking, is there anything that comes to mind where your clients or even people you do work with, and when you're looking at a bunch of listings, that they're just really missing that one thing, whether it's in their pictures or in their design?
Yes. There's so many things.
Oh, yes. Give us the juice, Sarah. Don't hold back.
Right. The number one mistake that we see clients make, and we've posted this on our social media several times, is, when people are staying in an Airbnb, one of the biggest upsides to staying in an Airbnb versus a hotel is that you get to gather together in a space as a family that's, just your community space. So when you're in a hotel, you've got like a lobby or a hotel bar or something that you can kind of gather. But in an Airbnb, you've got a kitchen where you can cook together and dine together and, watch a movie together. And so that's the biggest advantage. And the mistake that we see hosts making over and over and over again is they'll pile all of these beds into their Airbnb, and, you'll be advertising an Airbnb that sleeps 8 to 10 people, and then they'll have a dining room table that seats 4, and they'll have one sofa and one chair that seats 3. And so they don't carry that host or that hospitality mentality all the way through their property. And so on the back end, when you're thinking about your guest experience, like, where are they going to eat? Why are you not prioritizing every single guest that's potentially going to be in your space? And so for us, that's always top priority, is like, before anything else, we have to make sure that if we're hosting 8 people, we have a dining room that seats 8 people. We have 8 wine glasses. We have a living room or 2 living rooms that will seat all 8 people. And so just thinking about your guest experience first and making sure that they get to really take advantage of having those community spaces is something that we fix on almost every single one of our clients' properties. And we're really adamant about making sure it gets carried through all of our properties.
Wow, that's a good tip. I'm like starting to think about myself too. I'm like, hold on, wait a minute. That's a great tip. Be carrying the experience throughout the entire Airbnb. Come with that same energy, right? Jeez. Emily, question for you. So thank you, Sarah, for that. Who does the copy for the listings?
For
your new listings, the copy, like as in the language and everything.
We have a Sarah does her for the Airbnbs. Sarah does them, the ones that are our listings. And then for Superhost Labs, we have our operations team that also is works with our property management team that does them. That's awesome. Guys, I gotta ask y'all, because it's like you're talking about teams. You got an acquisition team, you got an operations team. Like, I'm just so curious how you guys put this thing together. That is awesome. How's the structure? Is it and again, if you can't say, just that's completely fine. But I'm just curious because I just love business, so my business mind is coming in, like removing STRs. How did y'all structure this? Is it more of like a you said sweat equity / share of the business? Like, how are you guys structuring it on the back end? Again, feel free to hold back if you can't disclose anything.
Yeah. Well, they'll tell me if I've disclosed something that I shouldn't. I'm more of a ask for forgiveness.
That's the Sarah that I'm getting to know. Shoot it to me straight.
Yeah.
Emily's like, hold on, let me pull up the NDAs and
Emily's like, oh no, Sarah, let's stop talking now. This is mine and Emily's first time ever truly working for a startup, right?
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of people on our team come from the tech bubble and they're very familiar with working for startups. So this has been kind of a learning curve for us.
Yeah.
In starting it, we all are, equity holders in this company, and we all are kind of building it together. And all of us have, such a diversified knowledge across the board in short-term rentals. And so even outside of like building this thing that, hopefully turns into something great and all of us have faith that it will, just the networking and the knowledge within their team has been, insane. It's been one of those things where I feel like we're, building Superhost Labs, but at the same time going to real estate college, like,
oh, that's awesome.
just being surrounded by everyone. So
Yeah.
yeah, that original, core group of people outside from our contractors and things like that, we all share equity in this company and are hoping that it, has a big payout at the end.
I love it. I love it. Listen, ladies, I could have y'all in here in the lab all day because I'm just geeking out on the good vibes. But I know we got some stuff to do. So I'm gonna hit you guys with some rapid fire round. And what I'll do, since you guys are partners and you guys know who's good at answering what, you'll just point to the person and let y'all do your thing and answer and decide who gets the answer, right?
Perfect.
So this is for experimentation. I got some STR secrets for y'all. Ready? So what is your biggest time-saving hack?
Ooh, Emily, do you want to answer or you want me to answer?
You can answer this one.
Okay, so time-saving hack on managing properties has definitely been utilizing any automation PM software. On the Superhost Lab side of things, the biggest time saver has been batching content. So just being very intentional about planning ahead and making sure that, that's our biggest responsibility with Superhost Labs is building relationships with our investors through social media. And so understanding who we're talking to and how to talk to that person and then batching that content has been a huge time saver for us, as opposed to like trying to come up with new content every single day that's on brand.
Hold on, now you're speaking my language. We call it repurposing content, and just for that, I'll make sure that my team sends out this clip for y'all raw, so y'all can just have it and work with it and repurpose it. Does that sound like a deal?
Thank you.
'Cause I can't say I know the struggle. I know the hustle. That's what we do. We just repurpose. Y'all are gonna see your episode until y'all blow up and go public. You'll see. We'll keep playing it. So that's awesome. Second, your largest money saving hack when it comes to the SDR industry, of course.
Yeah. I'll take this one too. I think that's kind of my wheelhouse a little bit more. Honestly, the money saving hack that's been most beneficial for my husband and I while we're building our personal real estate portfolio is being chronically homeless all the time.
What? That's hilarious.
It's like,
Talk to me.
we're house hacking kind of along the way where whatever
Yeah.
property that we're putting together, we're living in it as our primary residence, but also in early 2020, we bought a Volkswagen van. And so anytime we're having properties, we're living in that van, and that cuts down on cost big time. It's also an amazing experience. Like, we love van life, but that has saved us a ton of money.
Oh, see, I know now why you get along with Mike. Little van hackers. That's what we got.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like I'm like 1 to 2 years behind him in
Yeah.
life, and so we're just like following in their footsteps. So
That's so funny.
closely.
Mike and Jill, those two, love those guys. Let's go. It's funny, while we're on this topic, I want to just share a gem with you guys because I was talking to my CPA about this, and I don't know if y'all are doing this. I know some savvy investors are doing this, but if you have an LLC and then you rent to yourself, then you can do a lot of like cost segregation and a lot of write-offs too. So, oh, you're nodding your head, Sarah. You're a bad woman. You know the goods.
Do you follow Snapback CPA on TikTok or Instagram or anywhere?
No, Snapback CPA. Is he not a black dude? Is he?
Nope.
No,
White guy.
No, yeah.
But he's kind of big on TikTok and on Instagram, but he specializes in short-term rental taxes. And so we've since switched over to him, and he is just like so plugged in so many ways and saving us money on the tax front. So
Wait, we might need to geek out on that. Like we might need to create a mastermind on that, because that defense game, like we play a lot of offense, but defense is crazy. Like I'm about to start doing some cost segregation on my stuff, and I'm really geeking out because we're launching a bunch of new entities and stuff, and I'm learning. I'm like emailing him this morning. I'm like, what? So anyways, let's keep the line of communication open, and we'll share that with Experiment Nation as well as we learn a few things. But thank you for that snapback CPA. We'll definitely check it out.
Yes.
All right, Emily, I got you some fire. All right,
Okay.
this one's for you.
Okay.
Your biggest lesson learned, Emily, in the SDR
Oh
space.
gosh.
Maybe you're learning it from Sarah because she's just so trigger happy.
Yeah. Well, let's
Sarah.
see. I guess on the design front specifically,
Mhm.
at first we were, and I understand that people are balling on a budget when they're starting out in the SDR space. I totally get it. But there was like a minimum that we learned that we were like, if you want to give a good product, you cannot go below this amount. And we were willing to do that before. But I think that the guest wasn't being prioritized in those instances. It was just, let me get something in here, and it's not, even if it's not comfortable, I'll still rent it out. And for me, I think that there's like a minimum you need to invest to make sure that your guest is getting a good experience on the back end.
Yeah.
You're not just like throwing something together,
No
because
slumlords over
it is
here.
hospitality first, investing second. And we say that all the time. And yes, you want the cash flow, but if your guests aren't happy, your cash flow is not going to continue.
Bars. Okay, you're coming out strong, Emily. Gosh, thank you. That was good. That's couldn't agree more. And it's the same thing. I think it's a good reminder too, if you're going to do some co-hosting, just letting the standard, and I know you guys do Superhost Labs, you have the operation isn't in a way structured that way with your clients. But for those who are listening, who are thinking like, hey, like I'll take any co-host deal, even if the person's not going to be willing to bring the property up to, no, that's a no, right? You're just setting yourself and themselves up for failure. And as we know, branding is everything. That's why we're here. If you guys didn't have good branding, you wouldn't be here. And you want that good reputation that, hey, they did a good job, but it's because the co-host allowed me to put myself in a successful position. So I love how you tied that together. I see Sarah's nodding. We got the approval.
Yeah. So true all the way through. We were trying to make magic happen on absolutely no money. And finally we were like, guys, like this is not a get rich quick scheme here. Like you've got to monetize that guest experience.
And you will get back, you will get that money back if you do things the right way. You will make it more than back if you do things the right way. So I think that's a really good lesson learned. The worst tip you've ever heard. And it could be even be in life too. Like, just I'll tell you mine, but I want to hear yours.
Yeah. I don't know. Bad tips.
That just comes to mind first. Like you're just like, man, I'll never believe that. That ain't right.
I mean, I want to go back to that exact same thing that Emily was talking about, is just at the beginning, especially when 2020 hit and we were just starting designing for other investors, we were letting investors kind of steer the ship on what we were spending, how much, like where we were putting money. We would allow them to cut down on budgets, and we were dealing with a lot of investors who used to be long-term rental investors that were bridging into the short-term rental space.
Yeah.
And we didn't have a ton of experience. And so we really were letting them lead the way. And now looking back, that was polar opposite of what we should have been doing. We didn't truly understand the value that design puts into a property, especially a short-term rental. And so we were letting them lead the conversation, and we should have been from the get-go being like, we are the experts here in this space. You've got to trust me that the money that you're putting into this, you absolutely are going to get back out of it. And so there were several properties that we did where there's just furniture pieces that just got obliterated immediately because they weren't the quality of furniture that you can put in something that's getting used the way a short-term rental is getting used. And so we saw a ton of pain from that, where we were going back through and having to order better sofas and spending more time, more money, more energy, kind of fixing the things that we said yes to that we shouldn't have said yes to at the beginning.
Got it. Is there any no-nos that come with that question? I know I said I keep this short, but is there any no-nos? Like, should I not go to the Facebook Marketplace? Like, is there any, I know there's no hard rules, but I'm just kind of curious as to anything that comes to mind as to like what you should. Emily, if you feel like
first thing that comes to my mind is futons. We love the idea of futons because it can sleep another person, but they break. They
Yeah.
instantly break. Literally, we had one break within a week of somebody listing it. It was the fastest it's ever broke. They're just not sturdy, and you don't know the kind of people that are going to be staying in your space really. And so having to replace a futon is not great. Another thing is Facebook Marketplace and going to vintage shops is absolutely fantastic, especially if you are on a budget and you can get really good quality stuff for that. But when they break, it's harder to replace something that's going to look similar as your photos. So like we would get a lot of stuff from Wayfair because you can go and reorder something from Wayfair that's pretty similar and you might not have to get it rephotographed. But if you're getting something from Facebook Marketplace and you can't get something that's going to be really similar, you might end up having to rephotograph your place just so it's accurately representing it. And so that was just like a tip that we learned later on to keep in mind, that like, oh, we need to make sure these pieces are going to be replaceable if they do break.
That's such a good point. That's such a good point about the whole, like, and this is why I love having this, because you just save someone tons of time. That's such a good point. I remember this happened for us. We were able to find something replaceable. We didn't have to take new pictures because it was like, off by like a seam.
Mhm.
But that is such a good point, especially if you go for such a, something very unique. Wow. Great tip. Love that. I would say I'm going to skip over these because we overlapped a little bit, but what you need to do that you're not doing today?
With our properties in particular, I mean, we're not spending as much time on singular properties now designing as we once were when it was just the two of us.
Mhm.
But I think, especially at the beginning, again, we didn't understand the value that design had. And I still don't think that we're pushing design as much as we could be. There are people that, we have yet to meet in the space that we're looking at, like, I always use this as an example, but like the invisible house in Joshua Tree, that is like a work of art. And we know Airbnb is moving in this unique stay arena. We just don't know to what capacity and for how long that's going to be. And of course, more unique stays are a little bit of a riskier investment because they're harder to offload. They're not typical single family homes that you can offload to someone who wants to move into it, right? Like no one's going to move into a 1-bedroom, super tiny A-frame. No one's going to move into a tree house, things like that. So I think that, Emily and I have this desire to push into that side of the space and we haven't yet. And so it's one of those things that I think eventually we will get there, but it's like this looming thing where we're like, how do we break into that space? What is the right timing? Are we missing out on huge amounts of cash flow because we're not pursuing it already? So I think that's one thing that we're not doing yet that we maybe should be, or should prioritize more, like move it up.
So if I'm clear, sir, you're talking about like going all in on like a big like project of like over delivering where everyone's just talking about it, social currency, right? Yeah, go all in. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think it just goes by like kind of like stacking up and then doing. I mean, you guys got the proprietary tool, and I'm just brainstorming with y'all, and like when you find that right one.
Well, and they're hard to comp too, like those unique stays, it's not apples to apples. When you're playing the single family home game, you get to look at your neighbor and you get to be like, okay, they have a hot tub, I can add a hot tub. But when you start getting into tree houses and tiny homes and glamping spaces and one of a kind experiences, like you don't really know how much they're making. You don't know if it's like, just something that they're really passionate about, but their cash on cash is about the same, but it's a riskier investment. There's just a lot more to kind of dig into that we haven't dug into yet. But I think that both Emily and I would enjoy that kind of corner of Airbnb. And so we're not there yet, but we're excited to get there.
Yeah, I'd like to join in on that. I gotta say, I love the experience that you can provide and just the design. I love design. Like I really I think I appreciate that more. I think I said this on the air the other day, is I had one of my friends come in and be like, oh, Celine did this. That's my wife's like, no, that was me. Like that was the design. It's like, what? Just quit playing, everybody. I'm like, no, seriously, like it's me. Why don't you believe me? I don't gotta be just for the females now. Come on now. Like I love the the eye, the look, the optics of things. And so I would love to create some kind of crazy experience that everyone's kind of enjoying because it's so fulfilling, and then that you own as well, and that you can go to with your family. That's really neat.
Absolutely, it's always been the goal.
It will be, yeah. I mean, y'all are Huge goals for you guys, and aspirations and expectations. So for sure. Describe in one word what you think is leading to your current success.
Flexibility.
Possibility.
No, flexibility.
Flexibility. Yeah, I like that.
I 100% agree with that. Just the changes that we have had from January to now, the entire way that we do business has completely changed, and we've just had to adapt. And that's kind of, I mean, in the STR game, it's changing all the time. They're making updates all the time. They change their algorithm all the time. So if you're not flexible in this space, if you can't adjust to the changes, you're not going to be successful.
Love that. Best advice you've ever heard.
Best advice I've ever personally gotten was actually from my husband. Emily and I had talked about starting something like this for a while. Me and my boss at my previous job had started kind of experimenting with short-term rentals. And at some point along the way, we had, talked this idea until we were blue in the face. And my husband was like, "You have analysis paralysis. You need to jump." And that just like changed everything for us. It was like almost like permission to just like take that leap. And like he was already in the entrepreneurial game well before we were. And so just hearing it where they're like, yes, this idea is brilliant. Yes, you guys can absolutely do this. Yes, you're capable. Just having that validation of like, now it's time. Like, please, like put some action behind the idea. And that kind of changed everything.
Yeah, I think mine was build your community first, or build your community while you're building, because we're lucky enough to live in a world where social media is a thing. Half of our friendships now have come through social media, and
I'm saying friends.
Yeah. And like, if you don't have your community, you don't have people to lean on, you don't have people to ask questions to, even like through Super Host Labs, we have learned so much just through building a community through that. So even if you're not ready to jump off the edge, if you're still analyzing, start building your community, because all of the knowledge that comes from that gives you the courage to jump off the ledge.
I couldn't agree more. Like, I really want to echo both what you said. One is the analysis paralysis. Like, you realize, I say this to my wife all the time, like, I mean, you guys know this. Have you seen some of the customer service that you get these days? I'm like, how are these people still in business? Because everyone's still figuring it out. Like, no, like you'd be like, there's no way I'll drop the ball this bad. Yeah. And they're a big corporation. So it's okay to not have it all figured out. Like, I can't even agree. It's so, you're so right. And then, what you said, Emily, it's so important to be able to just leap, right, and commit, and build your community while you're in the process, because those connections that you're making are the ones that, if everyone's heard of the realtor that's in the realtor in the, is it shadow realtor, or I forget, realtor in I forget what the word is. It's basically you have your license but you don't tell anybody, therefore no one's giving you business, where you really need to be out there like, hey, this is what I'm interested in, and put your aspirations, put your goals out there. Because guys, the reason why I got into short-term rentals is because I interviewed someone, shout out to Michael Shogun, episode 91, and we're at episode like 198 or something like that at this point. And he's like, I retired my wife from this and my mother. And I was just like, and I was like, Mike, tell me more. And now Mike has like boutique hotel. He's absolutely crushing it. It's unbelievable. Do you guys know Michael Shogun?
No.
Oh, you need to listen to, as he's a big player in the space. Michael Shogun. He actually just had the STR summit in Nashville. Yeah, that's him. He's the reason why I got into this space. And if I didn't put it out there, like I was just kind of interviewing people, meeting, it's unbelievable, right? It really makes a difference. So I think y'all just ended it on such a good note. It's because you gave tactical, practical advice, which is why I have this podcast, to not only be able to be so lucky to foster really cool relationships on the air, but at the same time give tactical, practical advice that you can take in your respective lab to experiment, fail, learn, repeat, and elevate. we might have to add that on there. I just said the elevate part. That's what I believe in, anyways. But
We love it.
ladies, man, thank you so much. Obviously, y'all, please tap in. I mean, their social media page is crazy. Your TikTok game is strong. I gotta ask. I don't know what it is, but I'm gonna get a little, maybe book a consult call on your time so y'all can fill me in, because I love I built my brand and started in 2017. I love Gary Vaynerchuk. I think I had his book up there, but now it's not up there. I started documenting my journey, just like you said, Emily, and it was an abundance of relationships that led to deals, and here I am today, and even the birth of my agency. So I couldn't agree more when you said that. But y'all are doing it on a whole nother level as well on TikTok, which is super organic now, so much better than Instagram. But I'm still trying to figure that thing out too. That's how I met Mike Elefante.
Oh yeah.
Us too.
It's crazy. What a time to be alive, right? So anyways, what I mean, what I'm saying is, and I'm trying to pull it up here, I want to make sure it's the Karwells, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, there y'all are, the Karwells. Make sure you guys follow them pretty much everywhere, right? And
Yeah.
that's Sarah and Emily, of course, who I happen to have the pleasure of having here in the lab with me. But y'all are crushing it. Continue to build. I cannot wait to have you guys back when you guys take this whole super host labs thing to the next level. Maybe I can be in one of your labs. We'll do an exchange. We did talk about doing that. So
Yes, we have a few things in the works. So hopefully we'll have masterminds coming soon where we can get all of us in a room and just nerd out on some short-term rental stuff.
I would love to geek out. Sign me up. Put me in the VIP section, please. Anyways, ladies, just want to thank you. Make sure you guys, the ladies, will follow Sarah and Emily. It was such an honor to have you here in the lab with us. And just like that, we are out.